From JBS Studios in Greater New York, this is the JBS News Update with Teisha Bader.
I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Monday, April the 2nd, 2018. Israel reached what is being called an unprecedented agreement with the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees regarding its African migrant crisis. As we have reported to you, Israel was planning to deport thousands of African migrants and asylum seekers currently in Israel to third-party countries in Africa, reportedly Rwanda and Uganda, something that was condemned by many in Israel as well as Jewish groups around the world. But according to this new agreement, the UN body will work to find homes in Western countries for some 16,000 of the asylum seekers, and Israel will give permanent status to the remaining 18,000. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the plan would be spread out over 5 years, and also named some of the countries that would absorb the asylum seekers as Canada, Germany, and Italy. Jewish groups welcomed the agreement. President of the Union for Reform Judaism, Rabbi Rick Jacobs, said working with the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, Israel now has created a humane model for treating asylum seekers, adding how fitting that during the Passover holidays, Israel has shone a light onto the nations of the world for treating those who are escaping harm in their homelands to find sanctuary among the righteous. Some 30,000 Palestinians held violent demonstrations along Israel's border with Gaza on Friday, throwing stones and Molotov cocktails, rolling burning tires, and even opening fire at IDF soldiers. 15 Palestinians were said to have been killed in the clashes. Up to 3 more were reported by Palestinian media as having died of their wounds sustained during the clashes. The IDF said terror group Hamas was inciting the residents of Gaza and using the Palestinians, including women and children, as tools of terror, further saying they have an obligation to protect the citizens of Israel and safeguard Israel's borders, and that at least 10 of those Palestinians killed Friday were known terrorists with track records of terrorist activity. Meanwhile, on Saturday, a draft statement was circulated at the UN Security Council against Israel, calling for an investigation of the clashes. The statement was sponsored by Kuwait, which represents Arab countries on the council. The Times of Israel reports that the United States raised objections to the draft statement and said it did not support it being adopted. Israel's ambassador to the UN, Danny Danon, condemned the statement from Kuwait as well, which also says that the Palestinians have a right to peaceful protest. Danon shared the image of the terrorists killed during the clashes that the IDF shared on their site, saying these are the peaceful protesters. He wrote on social media, "We told the Security Council that deceitful attempts to convene while Israel is celebrating Passover will not stop us from standing up for the truth and defending the IDF as they protect our country." Jewish writer and producer Stephen Bochco has died. Bochco was best known for creating such television shows as Hill Street Blues, NYPD Blue, and LA Law. He won a total of 10 Emmy Awards and 4 Peabody Awards during his career. Bochco died yesterday after a long battle with leukemia. He was 74. Jewish organizations here in the U.S. held their own memorial services last week for the French Jewish Holocaust survivor murdered in Paris last month. The American Jewish Committee held a ceremony at its New York office on Thursday, remembering Morel Knoll. The ceremony was attended by French Consul General Anne-Claire Legendre and Israeli Consul General Dani Dayan, as well as other diplomats. AJC Europe Director Simon Rodan Ben-Zaken addressed the event by video, calling Knoll's murder a painful reminder of the face of anti-Semitism in France today. The World Jewish Congress held a similar event at its New York headquarters on Thursday. WJC President Ronald Lauder addressed that gathering, saying we must continue to sound the alarm again and again until we put a stop to this terrifying rise of anti-Semitism spreading today across France and all of Europe. Well, tens of thousands of Jewish worshipers gathered at the Western Wall in Jerusalem's Old City this morning for Birkat HaKohanim, the priestly blessing that is held twice a year during the festival of Sukkot and Passover. Among those who made their way under tight security to the holy site was U.S. Ambassador to Israel, David Friedman. And taking a look now at our programming for tonight on JBS for Monday, April the 2nd. At 7 o'clock, it's The Wisdom of Dr. Ruth. At 7:30, retired IDF Colonel Kobi Marom talks about the precarious situation along Israel's border with Lebanon and Syria from Bethel Synagogue in New Rochelle. At 8, Israel's ambassador to the U.S., Ron Dermer, talks about the way in which Israel is thriving and acknowledges the importance of the Jewish National Fund's work in supporting the Jewish state, followed by remarks from Ronald Lauder, who presents children from countries around the world singing Hatikva, all from the 2017 JNF National Conference in Hollywood, Florida. At 9, Mark Golub sits down with Naftali Moses, author of Morning Under Glass, Reflections on a Son's Murder. At 10, remarks from noted philosopher, mystic, and scientist Rabbi Adin Steinsaltz at the 92nd Street Y. And coming up right after this newscast tonight at 6:30, Harvard Law Professor Emeritus Alan Dershowitz goes one-on-one. And that's the JBS News Update from Monday, April the 2nd, 2018. I'm Teisha Bader.